I could produce a million Real Housewives quotes on demand. A quote for every situation and a situation for every quote. A friend knows how obsessed I am with the franchise, Beverly Hills being my favorite, and he asked me a simple question. What is the Real Housewives actually about? A simple question, yes. Is there a simple answer? No. I'm Charlotte, but you can call me Charlie if you're nasty, and I'm a non binary femme, which I know is word vomit, who loves to not just consume media, but analyze it and even generate it through my own creative means. If you like what you see here, give a girl a follow. It's still Pride Month, and it would be queerphobic not to, if we're being really honest. So, why does the Real Housewives live rent-free in the minds of millions of people? Why can I tell you exactly why Nene and Kim fell out? Why can I tell you the full story of Erica Jane and Tom Girardi's fall? Why has it been on for nearly 2 decades, longer than most shows can conceive of, as opposed to everything else on primetime? Only daytime soap operas and Grey's Anatomy, which is a soap opera cosplaying as a medical drama, and you cannot tell me otherwise, have managed to pull this off. Most reality shows fizzle out within a few seasons, but Housewives lives on.
Ooh, the ghetto. The ghetto. The ghetto. Oh, you dressed all shocked. Where you live, bitch?
You look good.
What is this, honey? I was shocked, honey. I was in tears almost. And it has a white refrigerator. I was like, oh, not a white refrigerator. Girl, please put your shoes on. Let's go find you a home, honey. Ooh, Lord.
Like most reality shows, it's not short of iconic moments that provide pure entertainment value. And this is a significant pull, but it's not the only pull. You know, the typical fairy tale goes that the girl marries the prince, moves into the castle, and lives happily ever after. Housewives follows the ever after, and it's not always happy. In fact, statistically, it's not. Several cast members join the show with already unraveling marriages that fall apart within a season or two on TV. And it's not uncommon that their princes are unattractive or average looking men when compared to their wives, but they have great jobs and lots of money to sponsor their wives' lavish lifestyles.
I feel like I'm actually more comfortable here now. Like, I would choose like something like this over that big White House. It was just too big.
Yeah.
This is still ginormous, right? But it feels cozier.
Cozy.
It feels cozier.
It's 6,000 square feet with a 6,000 square foot balcony in it.
Okay,
You
but
call it cozy.
yeah.
Most housewives were not independently wealthy before their marriages, but Housewives, the show, provides the ladies with a platform which earns them a following which allows them financial independence, not just because of their Bravo checks, but from appearance fees and brand deals. Many husbands, house husbands as we call them, are threatened by this or hate the spotlight. Husbands who like it too much can also be a little bit unnerving to the fandom.
Are you Peter or are you Patricia? Because we need to figure this out.
But if your marriage is shaky and then you go on reality TV, it's statistically going to end the marriage. Likely, the show is a way out for the wife. For many of us, the idea of the soft life these ladies lead is aspirational. They may have illnesses or find it hard to conceive a baby, but they're never worried about health insurance payments, rent, or student loan debt. A lot of us know we aren't as thin or aren't as pretty or simply aren't as lucky as the housewives often were to be chosen by a millionaire or multimillionaire. So, in many ways, we envy Housewives, which is why we often both love and hate watching the show, and will criticize a housewife or a season, but will defend the franchise if anybody outside of the circle were to call it mindless TV. To us, it is too complex to be mindless, and there's a reason why watching Housewives is mindless, but watching sports is not. Hint, hint, it's misogyny, because I know a lot about the lives of housewives, and I probably know more about them than most soccer fans know about their favorite player. If I saw Dorit Kemsley right now, I know that she's going to request a Belvedere and soda with 3 lemons, juice, and carcass out.
It may look like I have it all, but I want more.
The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills' first season is probably the most glamorous of them all from that early era of housewives. The OC wives still hadn't gotten their arguably most glamorous housewife yet, Mrs. Heather Fancy Pants married to a top California plastic surgeon, Dubrow. Though the women were well off. New York had women with houses in the Hamptons, but much smaller apartments in the city. And Atlanta's cast was a mix of the two, with all of them purporting to be socialites, but only some seemed to have the bank account to back that job up. During the first season of Beverly Hills, it seemed like every episode the ladies were hopping on a private jet to New York or Vegas. Camille Grammer, actor Kelsey Grammer's wife at that time, boasted multiple homes, an estate in Malibu, an apartment in New York, a house in Aspen, and another in Hawaii. The other cast members were successful restaurateur Lisa Vanderpump, businesswoman and heiress Adrienne Maloof, Taylor Armstrong, who had a job, but who we rarely ever saw storylines surrounding working, so it seemed like her husband bankrolled her life, so did it matter that she had a job? And former child stars Kim and Kyle Richards, who maybe weren't as rich as some of their fellow cast members, but had past fame and were sisters to Kathy Hilton, the mother of Paris Hilton. That was social currency in the early 2000s. Kyle successfully launched fashion lines and owned a boutique, and Kim was vaguely interested in returning to acting. But both were primarily mothers, and Kyle was a wife too. To circle back to the point, wealth and glamour became a big part of Housewives, especially after Beverly Hills, and fans became experts at spotting a fake, from a fake handbag to a Shein dress. And financial fakes will receive the ire, the wrath of some Housewives fanatics for not measuring up. Current Orange County cast member Gina, I can't say her surname very well, is constantly memed for her humble lifestyle in comparison to some of her other cast members. Many don't quite understand how she got cast and think she may have been better suited as a friend of, in the vein of Brandi Glanville in season 2 of Beverly Hills. Less financially well off, but worth having around. But Gina takes the lashings on the chin, and Bravo keeps giving her that check. Bethany Frankel, one of the most successful housewives of all time, was neither rich nor married nor a mother at the start of New York's run, but she became all of those things right before our eyes, and Brandi also became well off over the course of the show. So there is a place for the upwardly mobile housewife. But wealth and all its trappings is a big part of what makes a real housewife a real housewife. How big is her house? What car does she drive? What business does she or her husband own? Does she have a Birkin? Only one? We judge from the comfort of our studio apartments or the living room of the walk-up we share with roommates. Fans who live in the city where a Housewives show is being filmed will tell you if a neighborhood is good or bad, and people who've tangentially known a cast member will spill the real tea about the cast member's like lifestyle and whether it's authentic. A housewife who presents the picture-perfect financial life with a dash of personal drama to make them intriguing is the formula to a positive reception by the fandom. We often don't want to see the ladies struggling with money, though that does provide some entertainment for at least a little while. But a housewife whose life is too easily compared to our own, too relatable about the mundane business of making ends meet, makes her one of us, because there is such a thing as hitting too close to home. The barrier between reality and reality TV evaporates.
I've been in the business for 12 years. You guys help me. Oh, really? You bitch? Are you serious?
It's interesting to me that so many fictional stories can be written about middle-aged men and receive critical praise and attention. I enjoyed Mad Men, and I've heard that The Sopranos and Breaking Bad are both S-tier shows. But dramas about everybody else often have to somehow not be about issues that matter to those varying demographics, or at least they have to deconstruct those issues to make them serious. To avoid being labeled vapid and superficial, female-led shows often lean into becoming thrillers or murder mysteries, which are great, I love them. But the leads are almost always not like other girls. Not so for the Real Housewives. They're often walking Barbie dolls with Barbie dream houses. The Real Housewives was partially inspired by Desperate Housewives, a TV drama about mostly middle-aged women and the epic highs and lows of suburban life, which itself feels like a suburban version of Sex and the City, but that's besides the point and maybe worth another video. We've seen many daughters of Desperate Housewives since it premiered, from Revenge, though that's actually based on the Count of Monte Cristo for the literary girlies, to Big Little Lies, to Firefly Lane and Sweet Magnolias over on Netflix. But it's the Real Housewives that has somehow managed to survive them all. For all its cancellations, pauses, and reboots, the franchise itself doesn't seem to be going anywhere, with international licensing having created The Real Housewives of Cheshire, which has been on in the UK for a full 10 seasons now, the recently announced and highly anticipated Real Housewives of London, and franchises in Australia, all over Europe, and in Africa. So I go back to the original question. What is The Real Housewives about? If I had to use my own words to summarize it, I would say that The Real Housewives follows the interpersonal relationships and intrapersonal growth of a group of typically affluent friends and acquaintances, many of whom are married or divorced in a given metropolis. This doesn't account for the comedy, the pathos, or the sheer entertainment value of the show, but it does answer the question my friend posed to me about what the show is about. And I feel like this video essay explains why it's enjoyable to a certain demographic. Ultimately, using metrics like good and bad to describe the Real Housewives feels overly simplistic. A Housewives show is judged by its own rules. Wealth and glamour, personal storylines, and iconic show-stopping sound bites are what make a Housewives show good or bad. The New York reboot is Andy Cohen's baby, but the fandom is less enthusiastic. Jenna Lyons, famous in the fashion world well before her casting, felt like she needed to carry the wealth of this reboot. Well, at least the fandom felt like she needed to. But she seems drama-averse and ultimately doesn't make for a strong anchor for New York, despite her name recognition. if anything, I actually think Erin is the anchor of the show, with former cast member Bryn as the villain. Jenna sort of fades into the background by comparison, as she seems to have money, and yet we hear that she rents cars or basically had a fancy garage sale of her designer items to make some money. A jarring experience for any viewer who knew who Jenna Lyons was before she got cast on Roni. There is simply nothing else like The Real Housewives, though it has derivatives. The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and Selling Sunset are two successful shows that follow the Housewives formula and are still airing. But Bling Empire, a show about crazy rich Asians living in LA and which later got a New York spin-off starring Dorothy Wang in her second attempt at reality stardom, is off the air. It might be worth discussing race and reality TV, especially in the Housewives franchise and the fandom, in a future video, but I'll stick a pin in it for now. The Real Housewives is somewhat in decline. New York has been rebooted, New Jersey has been paused, Miami, despite being one of the best contributions to the franchise in a long time, feels like it's always on the cusp of cancellation because of low viewership. When it finally comes to its natural end, it'll be a sad day for the audience who stuck with it this long. Will it be forgotten by the pop culture mythos? I don't know. It shouldn't be, but like all things, it will have its end. And I personally don't look forward to that day, and I'm sure a lot of you don't either.